And joining us today on our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a woman who's written a really interesting book. It's going to be very educational, I'm sure. It's called Making Makers, Kids, Tools, and the Future of Innovation. We're joined today by Dr. Anne Marie Thomas from up in the beautiful state of Minnesota today. And Doctor, good to have a chance to chat with you. How are you today?
Good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, good to have a chance to talk with you. I had an opportunity to read through the book, and I think you bring up a great point in it. And I guess my first question is, I think we've kind of gotten away from the whole thing of making things or creativity. I don't know if it's in the schools or not, but I like the thesis of the book, teaching kids how to make things.
Yeah, we are a species of makers. We need food, we need shelter, and we depend on each other to make those things. But you're right, we have gotten away from teaching kids how to do that.
I wonder why that happened. I mean, I went to elementary school. You always start in kindergarten making things with, they used to call construction paper, and then do projects all the way through in art class, that kind of thing. I don't know what it's like in schools now, but I guess that's not the case anymore, is it? Or as frequently as it used to be?
Maybe not as frequent. And, it used to be that most people had the option at some point to take home ec or shop class, and maybe at your home, your parents were fixing things. There were more opportunities to take things apart, less black boxes. You'll get in a lot of trouble if you take apart mom's iPad, probably.
Yeah, it's true. We all took shop and didn't have home ec, but we did have some classes where you learned a little bit about cooking. So I guess you have to learn what you can do and you can't do as far as creativity. Some people, aren't going to be great carpenters or anything, but at least you have to be exposed to it, right?
Yeah, you can't do something you don't know exists.
Talk a little bit about the book. You kind of break it down into different chapters. I guess the first one, which is a great one, curiosity, right? You have to be curious about things.
Yeah, so what I wondered was, what do great inventors and makers of today, the adults, what were they doing as kids and were there similarities? And I spent about 3 years interviewing over 70 makers about their childhoods. And there really were, these 8 common traits that came up. They were, curiosity is a big one. Makers, both young and old, really want to know how things work or what happens if. Those aren't questions that someone else can answer for you. So you have to let kids explore that on their own.
Yeah, you talked about talking to the different people, and some of these people, 3D robotics. I guess Chris Anderson, one of the founders there, Molly Black, the co-founder of Sassy Knitwear. So you talked to some people that have really created something and have made some money with them too.
Exactly. And a lot of these people, the interesting thing in those two that you just mentioned, 3D Robotics, Chris Anderson, he was the editor-in-chief of Wired magazine and got really into flying robots and started a company. And, a lot of that was through this sort of open-source nature of people sharing information. Similarly, Molly Black and Sarah Bruno started Sassy Knitwear, which is a wonderful, ecologically friendly clothing company. They weren't trained as clothing designers. They wanted to see something change. They wanted to see more ecologically responsible clothing made, and they figured it out. They found the communities to help them, and now they train other people to do a lot of that work as well. So really being curious, but also very persistent, willing to take some risks and jump in there and learn what you don't know. It's not about being an expert always. Sometimes it's about being a very optimistic and very energetic amateur, jumping in and learning. Yeah,
that's one of the other titles of one of your chapters, Risk. I think people maybe don't understand quite what that means. Not that risking your life necessarily, but risking maybe not doing well at something, right? Isn't that pretty much what it means?
Exactly. Yeah, also learning what's dangerous and what isn't. There's one mother who talks about, she's a very successful maker and helps lead the website called Instructables and different projects you can make. And she says, I want my kids to be competent. I want them to learn how to do dangerous things safely, which makes a lot of sense, right? Even crossing the street has risk. And if we don't let kids take some of those risks and get little bumps and bruises as kids, they don't know their limits. So we do have to step back a little bit and let them get a little banged up if that's what happens.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and if you protect them too much, they don't know those limits. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, what do you hope to obviously you want people to read the book, but this is also kind of geared, I guess, from reading through it, more for schools that they could use as a learning guide. I don't want to say a textbook, but maybe a learning guide. Is that one of the?
Yeah, I think it's a reminder in many ways. What I highlight is that there isn't one path. All of these people, whether they're making robots today, or clothing, or food, or schools, they've had their own path, and so many of them weren't the straight A students. Many of them, school wasn't their favorite thing. Some of them it was, but they really were allowed to find their own path and find their own voice. So if anything, hopefully it's a bit of comfort that there isn't necessarily a mold you have to fit to be successful. You have to test things and find your own passions.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think maybe now people are waiting, or in the school system maybe waiting till you get to your college years before you kind of explore that. But very important to do that at a young age. I guess 4, 5, 6 years old. That's not too early to start that, right?
Not at all. No, and the interesting thing is, maybe it's a misnomer. I said making makers, but kids are born makers. The trick is keeping them that way. If you put a little kid in front of tools or paints or crayons, they all think they're Picasso and the next artist. They're willing to jump in. It's supposed to get a little bit older that they step away from that. And you said you can wait till too long. You don't wait till a student gets to conservatory in college to give them their first piano. We have to be the same way about making and breaking things.
A couple of other chapters, I thought it was interesting. Resourcefulness. You have to kind of use what's nearby, or come up with ideas. Maybe you don't have the resources. You have to be kind of creative that way, right? To create.
Yeah, and not to always have it handed to you. I love most of the parents in this book told their kids, "Well, go figure it out." They didn't jump in and find them the right tools or find them the right materials. They said, "Well, go figure something out. You don't have that, find something else, or get a job and buy it yourself."
Yeah, I've been told that.
Happens quite a bit. Yep, I was told that too.
and it's a good lesson. Maybe not at the time, but it turned out to be.
Exactly, and I think a lot of those, sometimes we try too hard to make things easy and make our kids feel successful, that we have to let them struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I think that might be one of the, and I'm not knocking technology today or kids using the internet, but I think that might be part of the problem. It comes a little bit too easy, maybe, some of the information to them. Maybe give them that kick in the backside. Figure it out on your own, right?
Yeah, and let them learn the technology. Not just be a passive user of it. If a kid really likes video games, teach them a code. Let them start figuring out how to make their own.
That's right. Make a little money with that.
Yeah.
Well, the name of the book is called Making Makers, Kids, Tools, and the Future of Innovation. We've been talking with Anne-Marie Thomas today. And Anne-Marie, do you have a particular website you want to direct people to?
Sure, yeah. You can go to makingmakersbook.com for more information.
Great. Pleasure to talk to you today. Great idea again for a book, and hopefully we can do it again. But thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you very much.